Hi, I'm Doug Hesse. I'm currently the Executive Director of Writing at the University of Denver. Prior to that time, I was 20 years at Illinois State University, where I had a number of roles, including directing writing programs. I'm happy to give a few bits of advice to especially fledgling WPAs these days, though I must say that it may or may not be pertinent. Our times are changing quite a bit. Here's what worked for me. Just as a bit of preamble, I was the president of WPA in 1999 and 2000. I'm sort of stunned to think that there have been more presidents after me than there were before me, although Harvey Wiener was president for 6 years, so I don't feel quite as old in making that observation. I think I have 5 points today. Over the years, I've been in lots of meetings with Kathy Yancey, and Kathy always or usually announces how many points she's going to make in any kind of comment. One could do worse than to emulate Kathy Yancey. So, first piece of advice, do the work. There's a lot of stuff that's fairly glamorous about being a WPA, especially when it comes to things like setting goals or program philosophies or curriculum. That work is time-consuming, but it's fun and it's visible. There's a lot of work that you do that is just almost invisible, but extremely important. The number of hours I spend in any given week writing reports, writing emails, writing letters of recommendation are just innumerable. It takes a lot of time. It's butt in the chair and hands on the keyboard. But you've got to do it, and you've got to do it well. Anything that I write, I polish too many times for me to be comfortable even confessing. There are lots of meetings that you go to. Read the materials, come prepared, come ready to contribute. I've really been struck over the years when I've been in charge of meetings how clear it is when somebody hasn't done the homework. They're not ready. You don't want to be that person. So do the work. Last thing along these lines I'll say is try now and then at least to teach the courses that you direct. I've taught first-year writing classes almost every year for the past 35 years, including most recently this past winter. If you're directing a program, try to teach the courses that the program is about. Point 2, be a steward. It can be tempting to aspire to be a duke or a duchess. I suggest a better role is to imagine yourself as a steward. That is an expert caretaker of lands that do not belong to you. Most crucially, those are the responsibilities we owe our students, the responsibilities we owe our colleagues, and the responsibilities that we owe our profession. Try to make things better for a successor than you had them. Think of yourself as being fully invested in the role that you have at this particular time. Third, know the history. It's pretty tempting when you first get out of graduate school or first inhabit a new position to be so confident in all of the knowledge you have and the expertise that you have, and how dark and benighted the people who came before you were. You are bringing light to dark regions. Maybe not. Maybe you are. Be aware that the people who came in roles before us, more often than not, were doing the very best they could, and which was often plenty good, in times that were very different from ours. So resist the notion of thinking that history began with you and may even end with you. It will keep you a little bit humble. Humility is not a bad thing, and might even keep you from doing some stupid things, which I can say from experience. Fourth point, remember that you're directing a writing program. The most important letter in the acronym WPA is W. You're not directing accounting, you're not in charge of an HR office, you're not running a marketing operation. I hope you're doing this because you like to write, that you believe writing is important, and that helping others to write better for all sorts of purposes and reasons is about the most exciting thing that you can do. So, if your interest is really a lot more in running something than running particularly a writing program, there are a lot more lucrative and probably easier jobs that you can find out there. Be a writer. Time is short. I'd give you other pieces of advice if I could. I'd give you the advice to forgive yourself when you screw up, because you will. I'd give you the advice that writing and publishing will make you a lot more visible in terms of a legacy than directing a program will. I could give you the advice to always make visible your program's accomplishments. Don't assume that everybody will know how good you are. And I'd give you advice, if I had time, about remembering always that a career is not a life, that there are dimensions of being beyond your time at work and in the profession. But I will leave you with a fifth bit of advice, my Kathy Yancey number 5, and that is to relish professional friendships. I remember the first time I met Kathy Yancey, talked at any length, was on a patio of a restaurant in Bellingham, Washington, July 1995. I remember having dinner with Dwayne Rowan and his wife and daughter in Minneapolis, also in relation to a WPA conference. I've hiked Colorado trails with Linda Adler-Kastner and hiked streets of San Francisco with Joe Gianangelo. I've enjoyed pizza in a New Haven restaurant with Rita Malenchik. I've talked music with Shirley Rose and with Chris Anson, with Shirley as a fellow singer, with Chris as a fellow avid concert goer. There are lots of opportunities that you will have to get to know people personally who are really interested and worth knowing. Many years ago, I was on an airplane returning from a Four Seas conference, and I had the good fortune to sit next to Winifred Horner. Win was the second president of WPA. I knew who she was. She had no clue who I was. I introduced myself. It turns out I had played in a band with her son Dave many years ago at the University of Iowa. At that time on that plane, I was still pretty new in the role of directing a writing program. And I remember Win telling me, look, you've got lots of exciting things ahead of you. So maybe I'll just leave you in echoing Win. I think you have lots of exciting things ahead of you, and I wish you the best. Thanks for listening.